We now have solid collaboration on the implementation of our National Action Plan, and we have development partners that have come into partnership with us, such as UN Women, Ireland, Norway, Switzerland, and Canada. All this resulted from our breakfast discussions last year. All these partners are contributing to support the dissemination and publicity around our National Action Plan on Women, Peace and Security. We as South Africa, along with Switzerland, are the current co-chair of the global network of national focal points on women, peace and security. And it is our intention to work to enhance the advancement of the implementation of this agenda of women and to strengthen South-North cooperation on the WPS agenda. On top of our agenda is to champion change, to ensure translation of the WPS agenda into actual practical action. Some of you might have paid attention to the UN Secretary General's 2021 report on women, peace and security issues. This was an urgent call for action to reduce military spending and to increase investment in peace building, in education, in health, and other public programs. We need to reverse the upward trajectory in military spending, as this denies funding for the women's movement for peace and security, and takes away resources from what is a core commitment of the United Nations. Actually, I think we need to invest much more in peace than in war. We tend to invest a lot in war and far too little in peace and in prevention. We need to build bonds of friendship across the world so that leaders don't feel they must lead their people into war. The war between Russia and Ukraine should not have happened. Leaders should have invested in seeking a peaceful outcome and should do more even now to end the hostilities which are decimating lives in Ukraine. It is actually shocking that in the 21st century we have such a war. So much more should be done on prevention, on building peace and friendship. Our Women, Peace and Security and Humanitarian Action Compact has secured over 153 international country signatories. The compact was launched in July last year. It is part of the Generation Equality Forum. And I hope, Ms. Miller, that we will continue to make generation equality a very visible presence in the global women's agenda. I worry that it is being seen somewhat as an event rather than a movement that seeks to ensure that we do over time overcome the inequality that women are confronted with. So I'm a little worried that the impetus that we saw in 2020 and 2021 has somewhat subdued, and we need to really lift out the Generation Equality Forum activities much more in the international domain. We also would like to see much more action on finance for women and also on the promotion of women's leadership and agency across the peace, security, and humanitarian sectors. I have been observing some of the initiatives on seeking a peaceful outcome in Sudan, in countries within the Sahel. And I've noted that the negotiating teams tend to be made up of men, and women are not included in that process of peace building. I think we must be there from the inception of peace deliberations right through into post-conflict reconstruction. This is part of what we desire in our peace and security agenda, and we'd like to see much more attention to that. Some of the countries that are present here today are massive supporters of peace initiatives. I really would like to request them to ask their countries to ensure that when peace discussions begin, they must refuse to start them if women are not part of each of the delegations attending the peace negotiation. If we have that kind of insistence, we then begin the process of ensuring women are very firmly part of defining a peace agenda. Secretary General Guterres has said once more, women are on the front lines of the fight for peace. They're peace builders, they are change makers, they are activists, they are defenders of human rights. They can mediate, they can negotiate with armed groups, they are able to implement peace agreements, and it is they who push for peaceful transitions. He says they are the ones who fight for women's rights and social cohesion in their communities, and points out that despite this, too often, women remain on the periphery of formal peace processes, and they are largely excluded when decisions are made. As I've said, we need to ensure greater investment in local women peace builders, as the evidence of their positive contribution is clear. I'm really thrilled that joining you today are participants in the conflict resolution, mediation, and negotiating capacity program for international women and female officials from DIRCO. DIRCO has this program that it runs for this group of women, and they ask that they join today's breakfast. I was surprised that I wasn't asked, since it's my breakfast, but I'm nevertheless pleased that you are here. And I thank once more the Norwegian government, which is a co-sponsor of our program. They've always been amazingly supportive of the Women in Dialogue initiative. It's the intention of this program to contribute to the development and capacity building of a next generation of mediators, especially women in Africa, from within the government sector. We are currently hosting 19 participants, 12 of whom are from SADC countries, 3 from the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, and 4 are officials from within DIRCO. It is our hope to fast-track women's full and equal participation in every aspect of life. This includes within peace processes and political transitions. Last year, women represented just 23% of delegates in peace processes led or co-led by the United Nations. We need full gender equality, including through the establishment of ambitious quotas across elections, across security sector reform, across disarmament agenda, demobilization, and the development of new justice systems. I propose the idea of a quota even on the President of the General Assembly at the United Nations last week, because I noted that each year the President of the General Assembly is male. The member states elect the PGA, and I said South Africa is presenting a woman candidate for the 79th session, and we hope member states will support her. In addition to advancing our WPS agenda, our government, as co-leader of the Economic Justice and Rights Action Coalition of the Generation Equality Forum, I actually said it right, we have committed to take tangible actions to ensure that by 2026, economic justice and rights are guaranteed for women and girls. We believe this can be realized through gender-responsive systems and structures, through secure access to resources, services, and decision-making, through fair participation in enterprise and trade, through promotion of non-discriminatory labor markets that are free of violence and harassment, and through a strengthened and just care economy. This is a massive agenda for us to achieve, but a very important agenda for us to pursue. Our Charlotte Maxeke African Women's Economic Justice and Rights Initiative was announced by us as our flagship transformative program as part of the Generation Equality Forum. And it is our contribution to the global acceleration agenda for the empowerment of women and girls. We recognize that while more efforts have gone to advocate for the civil and political rights of women, the economic rights of women and girls have been largely neglected, and we need to do much more on this. We are working with multiple stakeholders to finalize work on the following projects that we plan to implement over the next 3 to 5 years. Firstly, the African Women's Leadership Training Program on economic justice and rights. This will be tailored to enable astute African women leaders the opportunity to provide insight on economic justice and rights. It will also provide a networking platform for African women leaders to share best practice and lessons from their experiences in the economic field. Second, the Women's Trade Fair, which will showcase African women's products and services to markets on the continent and globally. It will also raise awareness about the opportunities provided through policy initiatives such as the African Continental Free Trade Area. Third, the Fellowship for African Women in Diplomacy. We are seeking partnerships for an annual fellowship program specifically targeting African women in diplomacy. The program will provide both degree and non-degree awarding opportunities for the next generation of African women in diplomacy. We hope through this program to prepare female public servants inspired by the values of Charlotte Maxeke, values of ethical leadership, of empathy and excellence. We also plan, fourthly, to host the first ever Charlotte Maxeke African Women's Leadership Awards to recognize and honor exceptional African women leaders whose achievements, mentorship, influence, and contributions have advanced Africa's development in various sectors of our society.